Coming up on Extra Credit, we'll learn about nutrition for zoo animals, take a look at dinosaur bones, find dinosaurs using high tech, and learn how to identify different snakes in nature. Lots of fun with cool creatures coming up. Welcome to Extra Credit, where we meet interesting people, explore new ideas, and discover fun places together. I'm your host, Chase. Today we're learning about fascinating features of creatures near and far. First up, have you ever seen a giant dinosaur tooth? Well, you're in luck, because our friend Dinosaur George has a giant T-Rex tooth and some dinosaur bones. Check it out.
Hey everybody, I'm Dinosaur George and I know some things about dinosaurs because since I was little, that's what I study. In fact, I love them so much, I travel all over the country with a traveling dinosaur exhibit, and maybe one day I'll get the chance to see you when you come in and meet all of my amazing friends. Of all the dinosaurs I have, there is one that is called the king, and that's Tyrannosaurus Rex. The two questions I get from everybody is, why is it called the king of the dinosaurs? And its teeth are the size of a banana. That's what I hear all the time. Well, first let me tell you why it's called the king. Because the name Tyrannosaurus Rex means tyrant lizard king. Those are Latin words. Tyrannosaurus Rex are three words. Tyrant lizard king. It will always be the king of the dinosaurs, even though there's some meat eaters that are larger than Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's still going to be called the king. And by the way, T-Rex and Tyrannosaurus Rex are the same animal. Tyrannosaurus Rex is its real name, T-Rex is its nickname. So are its teeth the size of a banana like everybody says? I see it in books, I hear it from people. Well, the answer is they're even bigger than a banana. You see, when you look at the tooth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, when you see it in the skull, it doesn't look that long. That's not the length of a banana. Well, that's because you're not looking at the root. The root is the long part that fits up in the jaw. Our teeth have roots, so does T-Rex. So if you could see through the bone, what you would see is way up inside is the root. So the tooth is actually 12 inches long. I've got a project for you. Look around the house, find a tape measure, and see if you can find something in your house that is 12 inches long. And when you do, then you'll realize just how big that tooth is. The other amazing thing about T-Rex, their teeth are sort of like the teeth of a shark. They fall out, a new tooth grows back, over and over and over. We find more T-Rex teeth than T-Rex skeletons. Why? Because it loses hundreds of teeth in its life. It only loses its skeleton once. And that's not a good thing when that happens. So, when you see the tooth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, I want you to remember, yes, it is the size of a banana, but that's when you count the root. Stan, Sue, Y-Rex, Z-Rex? What are those names? Well, do you know every T-Rex gets its own name? This one is Stan, and they all look different. That's like you and I. We're the same species, but we all look a little different. Do you know the same thing happens with Tyrannosaurus Rex? Every skull looks very different. They would have been able to recognize individuals. Well, we give them names so that we can recognize who we're talking about. This dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus Rex's name's Stan. A bigger one than this was one named Sue. You might have heard of Sue. So when you hear us talk about the names of them, each specimen gets its own name or number so that scientists know who they are. Looking at this dinosaur, it looks different than the one I just showed you, but they're both Tyrannosaurus Rexes. They all had different faces. They all have the same equipment, that's these giant teeth. So if you see pictures of Tyrannosaurus Rex and you want to know why it looks different than another T-Rex, it's because they were all individuals just like you and I. Not all meat eaters are created equally. They're different sizes, but they're all related. This is the skull of Eoraptor. a tiny little meat eater, one of the first meat-eating dinosaurs. Now, it had the sharp teeth like all of its later ancestors, but it was tiny. Well, you can see compared to this dinosaur, they don't look anything alike, and yet they are related. This is a dinosaur called Saurophaganax. It lived millions of years before Tyrannosaurus rex. So this is sort of like Tyrannosaurus rex's great-great-great-great-grandparent. Now, Saurophaganax, just like little Eoraptor, would have been very dangerous for their time. They were carnivores, they were relatively fast, this one much faster than this one, but you can look by the shape and the size. It doesn't look exactly like a T-Rex because it's not a T-Rex, it's an earlier ancestor. So my young friends, if you want to be a paleontologist and study more about dinosaurs, here's my advice to you. Practice your reading, practice your math. We use math in paleontology a lot. And if you become good at both of those and you want to join me, you can come on board with us and travel with this amazing world of dinosaurs.
Paleontologists are scientists who study life forms that existed a long, long time ago by examining the remains that were left behind on Earth. But how do scientists find remains of things like dinosaurs? The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA, helps paleontologists find dinosaurs by using remote sensing technology. Here's how it works.
Hi, I'm Evan, and I've got one of the coolest jobs on the planet. I'm an explorer, and I get to explore our world. So stick with me, and you'll discover how fascinating our world can be. And maybe you could be an explorer too. Hey, Globey. What's that? You got a new brain bender for me today? Huh? Do I know what a paleontologist does? Well, maybe some of you already know, but here's a hint for those of you who don't. Paleontologists dig in the earth to learn more about the history of the past. Paleontologists look for prehistoric life forms before human history, like dinosaurs. Pretty cool job too, huh? I also know the folks at NASA are giving paleontologists a lot of help. NASA? Helping with underground research? That's right. NASA uses many tools to study and look at the Earth. One tool, remote sensing, can be used to help find where fossils are most likely to be. Remote sensing allows us to gather information about something without actually touching the object. These remote sensors are very impressive tools, but did you know that you and I have remote sensors as well? That's right, think about it. Your eyes. You can look at something and get tons of information about it without even touching it. Now that's remote sensing. There are lots of different types of NASA remote sensing methods. One is called ground penetrating radar. This method helps researchers so they don't always have to dig to see what's underground. Using these sensors with photographs taken from the sky and historical documents, NASA gives researchers a head start on where to dig, what to preserve, and what areas to avoid. In fact, a few years ago, researchers found an actual dinosaur intact. No, really, with preserved skin, muscle, and bones. The real deal. Dinosaurs are usually only found in fossil fragments of skull and bone. But this was the whole dinosaur. Since dinosaurs lived hundreds of millions of years ago, this was a really amazing find. Back in 1999, a 10th grader named Tyler Lyson was exploring his uncle's property in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'll bet you he didn't expect to discover a mummified hadrosaur. A hadrosaur is a duck-billed dinosaur. They're called duck-billed because their snouts were flat. So I guess you could say they kind of look like the modern duck. In 2004, researchers returned to the site where the hadrosaur had been discovered and used LiDAR to learn more about the site. LiDAR stands for Light Detection and Ranging. It's another remote sensing method. LiDAR measured scattered light to find a distant target. Researchers use this technology to make 3D maps. A map similar to this one was used to help researchers learn more about the area where this hadrosaur had died. Archaeologists then cut out a large section of rock and took it to a facility that would allow scientists to scan the dinosaur inside. The challenge was trying to figure out how to remove the dinosaur from the rock. The best way to determine the position of the bones in the rock and completeness of the skeleton was to use NASA CT scan technology. CAT scans are another remote sensing device that allows researchers to see bone and skin. NASA operates the biggest CAT scanner in the world, and this was a big help in the excavation project. The discovery of this amazing creature, now named Dakota, is changing what researchers thought they knew about dinosaurs. These and other fossilized remains provide clues to the history of living things. NASA isn't just about exploring outer space. NASA is about exploring all around our world. NASA will also use remote sensing in future endeavors, like measuring the depth of moon dirt on the lunar surface, or detecting water or ice on other planets, and finding the location of natural resources on faraway worlds. It's fascinating to learn how NASA is assisting paleontologists in exploring our world. Next time you're exploring something, be sure to use your very own sensoring tools, your eyes.
All the animals you see in nature play a role in their environment. Some are predators and others are prey. Next up, Joe Woes from Cartoon Academy shows us how to draw a cartoon fish and a furry companion. Just between you and me, the fish looks a little nervous when Joe draws the cat next to him. Take a look.
Today we're going to draw two household pets who, well, don't quite get along. A goldfish and a cat. We're going to see how it turns out. Let's draw. We're going to start with the eyes on our goldfish. We have an oval, and then a letter C backwards. Now for the expression on his face. We have the pupils and the eyebrows. Look a little bit worried and maybe concerned. Now for the mouth. We're going to come down to a point, down, point, out, and in, and we're going to stop right there. We see a little bit of the interior or inside of the mouth. So we're just going to color that in. The back of our fish, we come down and around. Now we're going to have our fish sitting inside the bowl. The bowl is his habitat. The habitat is where a character lives. So we're going to have a line that goes across like this, and then we're going to leave a little gap, and then a line like this. Back in, leave that gap, over and in, leave that gap. That gap is so we can add his little fin holding on to the bowl. Now we can complete all these other lines. Connect, connect. Here's the other fin. Out, down, and in. Now for the bowl. Starting where we left off up here, we're going to come down, around, flatten it out a little bit, around and up. We now have to draw the fish's body inside of the bowl. So we're going to leave a little space here, come down and in, and then add the tail fin. There are some props within his habitat. There are some rocks and a castle. But notice the way I draw the castle. I'm not using straight lines. This is called distortion. It looks sort of wobbly. And the reason it looks kind of wobbly like that is because of something called refraction. It's the way we see the light when it has to go through two different kinds of mediums. We're seeing the light as it bounces off the castle through both the water and the glass. So this causes refraction. It makes it look distorted. Add a few little specks to show the gravel. We're also going to add just a little bit of reflection on the glass. Reflection is the way the light shines bouncing off of the glass. Now we're going to add a little table that bowl is sitting on. Line over, over, down, and up. Down, and down. That just gives us a table. Let's add some gills. 1, 2. As you can see, our little goldfish seems a little bit worried. That's because there's a character relationship. Relationship is how one or more characters interact with one another. This is a very specific kind of relationship that's quite common in both the animal kingdom and cartoon world, and that is the relationship of predator and prey. One of these characters might end up as lunch. Don't worry, I think our little fish is pretty smart, and he'll outsmart that mean old cat. We're going to start with the nose for our cat. It's a triangle. Next, the eyes. Oval. But this one's a little bit different. We've got an eyebrow coming down like that to form the top of the eyelid, and then around. Now the other eyebrow. Now for the pupils. He has a very devious look on his face, doesn't he? The mouth, down and up and add a dash. Same thing on the other side. Lower lip. Let's add a few teeth. Just a quick letter V. Now for the head shape. We're going to start with the top of the head. We're going to have a line going across like this to show some fur-like texture. The ears. The ears are sort of triangular shaped, but there's a little notch right there, and then in. The interior, or inside of the ear, looks like an upside-down letter V, and then a line across the bottom. Let's add some shading inside the ear. Other ear, same way, but on the opposite side. Come up, down, add a notch, and down. The interior of the ear, upside down V, across, and shade it in. Now for the sides of the face and the cheeks. We come down, down, and scribbly lines out and in. Scribbly lines and in. Don't worry about being neat. Make it nice and messy. And then that goes right off the bottom of our page. Let's add some whiskers next. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you like, you could add some stripes to your cap. There is our cat and our goldfish. I hope they become friends. Be sure to sign your name, take pride in your work. I really enjoyed drawing those two characters. It's fun to draw different kinds of relationships and different kinds of characters. I hope you had fun too. This has been Cartoon Academy. Now it's time to draw to a close.
Every animal you see at the zoo has a different diet of food they eat. It's zookeeper Annie Markham's job to make sure they all get the proper nutrition. Investigator Genesis explores how that zoo lion gets all the nutrients he needs to roar as loud as he can.
Hi, I'm Genesis, and today I'm here with zookeeper Annie Markham. So, where are we today?
We're here at Potter Park Zoo. I'm a zookeeper here. I take care of our carnivores and our primates. We have over 400 individual animals here at the zoo, and they range from really small things to really big things like the rhinos. Most of the animals you see in a zoo are born here. Zoos don't want to take animals from the wild. We work really hard to help conserve animals in the wild, so we want the animals that live here to be happy here.
What is a typical day of work like here at the zoo?
Well, we start our day out by checking in on all of our animals and making sure that everybody is healthy and accounted for, and then we start getting breakfast ready. I'm going to give you a pair of gloves so your hands don't smell like fish. So we'll pull all the diets out we need for the day and start to go out and hand out our diets. So he stands up so I can get a good look at his belly and take a look at the bottom of his paws.
Up.
Good. And then after breakfast is served, we start cleaning. We go into the exhibits and make sure that everything is safe and that all the exhibits are clean. And then while we're out there, we usually put out their daily enrichment. So we're gonna go put Sebastian's food out in the exhibit and hide his enrichment for him. Enrichment is something new and different we add to an exhibit or a space to make sure that their lives are enriched. It's something new for them to investigate, and it usually is something that we try to elicit a natural behavior from them.
What parts of STEM do you need in your job?
I incorporate science in my job every day. We need to know the natural histories of our animals so that we can replicate that for them here so that they're happy and healthy. We also calculate their diets, which change from time to time. Working with the animals here at Potter Park Zoo and seeing them happy and healthy is the most rewarding part of my day. It's also very rewarding to get to work with visitors that come to the zoo and teach them about the animals that we love.
I had a wild time with zookeeper Annie Markham today. Explore your possibilities.
On this episode of 60 Second Snakes, we will be talking about the blue racer, which inhabit a variety of habitats throughout the state. Here's what to look for. First, check the appearance. This is a large gray or blue-colored snake. The head may appear darker than the rest of the body, and the chin, throat, and belly are white. Juvenile racers are light in color with a pattern of darker blotches. Next, examine the size. Adult blue racers can be 4 to 6 feet in length. Finally, watch the snake's behavior. Blue racers get their name from being a swift-moving snake and may even climb to avoid predators. Blue racers will also vibrate their tail as a defensive behavior if they feel threatened. Although this fast-moving snake may startle you, it is not venomous and poses no danger to people. Blue racers are an important part of Michigan. Enjoy any fleeting glance you may get of this swift snake. This has been 60 Second Snakes. Visit michigan.gov/wildlife to learn more.
Now, time to draw a terrific turkey with our buddy Peyton. For this activity, you need a pencil, paper, eraser, and crayons. If you don't have everything, don't worry. Be creative and use substitutes for items you don't have. Let's see what you come up with.
Today we are going to be drawing terrific turkeys. This art project is going to be exploring warm and cool colors as we break down the turkey also into basic shapes. So grab a pencil and a paper to start with and we'll begin. We're going to first start by drawing a smallish to medium circle about in the center of your paper, and then you can draw another circle right below it, as you can see here, that's a little bit bigger. You can draw that full circle and cut through what will end up being the head, or you can just skip around the head, and because we're going to have to erase that line should you decide to cut through it. After you do that, you can go ahead and draw his little feet, and then we'll work on the face. Now feel free to change up the face. I'm just going to make it one way, but you can do it however you'd like. You want to include probably some kind of triangular shape for the beak, and then 2 little eyes. Again, you can really adjust it to be however you'd like. Then I'm going to do the tail feathers. So for the feathers there in the back, we're going to do a half circle, a great big large half circle. And then to make individual feathers, you can just create some different lines, as you can see here, going all the way through that half circle. Then I will add these little curvy lines that connect each of these the little sections that I created. Now you can go ahead and erase that edge that we made there, and then you can make it more curved for each individual feather, as you can see here. So now that we have our turkey drawn in, I want you to divide up your background into a few sections like so. So I have diagonal lines cutting through back behind the turkey, as well as horizontal and vertical lines. Now we can start coloring. I recommend using colored pencils or crayons. This is kind of looking like a crayon, maybe an oil pastel. And what we're going to do is we're going to choose cool colors for our background. Now, cool colors are colors such as purple, blue and green, turquoise, red violet. All of those colors would be considered cool colors. So go ahead, take a look at your crayons, markers, whatever you have, and choose cool colors for the background. So for the turkey, we'll focus on warm colors. So I've chosen kind of an orangier brown for the body of the turkey. So that just means that if you don't have an orangey kind of brown, you could layer orange on top of your brown. Then I have colored the eyes and the beak, of course, on the face, and then now I'm working on the feathers. So warm colors are colors such as red, orange, and yellow. You might have red orange, you might have like a hot pink color. Those are all colors that would be considered warm colors. So those are the colors that we're going to use, along with brown, of course, to fill in the rest of the turkey.
Well, friends, our time has come to an end, but I enjoyed learning about so many different creatures. What was your favorite from today's show? I think my fave was the slithering blue racer snake. See you next time.
This program is made possible in part by Michigan Department of Education, the State of Michigan, and by viewers like you.